Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. I am Vedant Agarwal. Our lead story, well, a podium finish for India's hockey legend as a men's team won a bronze medal at India's men's hockey there at the Paris Games. Now, this is historic indeed because remember, this is India's first back-to-back hockey Olympic medal since 1972. And the man of the moment truly was PR Srijesh, who's saved many a day for India at the Paris Olympics. And with this, he's got a fabulous farewell there as well. My colleague Rika Roy spoke to PR Srijesh earlier. Take a look.
Well, it's the moment of joy for Indian hockey, and we are joined by the wall of Indian hockey, twice medalist at the Olympic Games, PR Srijesh. Let's start at the end. Srijesh, the conversations, you paid obeisance to the goalpost. Tell us a little bit about the end that happened.
It was my home for the last 24 years, and when you were saying goodbye to that, it should be in a proper way. And we Indians, we do have our culture to go in front of the goalpost. That's the best thing which I can do to that, because he supported, he faced me, he helped me, and he what should I say? It's supported every time when there's up and downs. So I just said thanks to God.
When you started today, what happened? Did you have any conversations with the goalpost?
No, I mean, see, when you know that if it's your last match, automatically you are emotionally full, and I just wanted to take that off. So I took my enough time to be there on the field with the goalpost. I just took the all feelings out, and I just got ready for my match. So that was more important for me.
The last 3 minutes, waves and waves of Spanish attack. What were you thinking, and how you were looking at your mates to, block that attack and finally get to the finish line?
Being a goalkeeper is my duty to just stop the ball. So I was just thinking about just stopping that. That's it. And I mean that's not the right time to overthink or just thinking of something differently. So I think we done a wonderful job as a team, a good defensive team.
20 plus years in the zone of hockey outside. Have you ever thought of it? I heard your baby saying daddy's coming home and he's coming home forever. Are you thinking about going back to the doctor and the babies?
Definitely, that's very serious. I mean, after every job, you people also enjoy to get back home. And I think it's been 24 years. My kids are grown up now. I'm so happy, I'm so proud as a father. Winning a medal for them in front of huge crowd. I think they realize that what I have achieved. So I think it's a great time, and it's going to be a good time with them.
Srijesh, your second medal from the Olympic Games. Tell us the best match that you've played in this tournament. According to you, of course, the medal match is a memorable match, but we saw you standing tall and not letting anyone through. But your best match?
I think today's match was the best one because there is no tomorrow for me.
One final question: there is no tomorrow for you. What's the message you're giving out to whole of India and to the next generation who's watching you today, Srijesh?
Guys, just work hard. Dream to become an Olympic medalist, not an Olympian. Let's go for it.
Thank you very much and enjoy the retirement.
तो हमारे साथ हैं बनारस के पंडा ललित उपाध्याय जी और बेजोड़ नहीं वो तो मैं एक एड्रेस करने के लिए, लेकिन आप बेजोड़ अब खेलते हैं और कई साल से मैंने आपको देखा जो इस तरह के आप फॉरवर्ड हैं और जो टीम हमारी जहाँ तक पहुँची है आपको मतलब ये लाइफ का बेस्ट मोमेंट में आप जा रहे हैं।
सर जैसे आपने पंडा बोल दिया तो मैं सबसे बड़ी बात है कि मैं महादेव का बड़ा भक्त हूँ।
महादेव के भक्त।
हाँ, और
इसीलिए तो बोला।
हाँ, और पूरे बनारसवासी पूरे देशवासियों का वो था, प्यार था और उनका सपोर्ट था कि दोबारा मेडल जीतने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ। और उसके साथ ही साथ मैं अपने टीम मेंबर ईच एंड एवरी वन जितने भी लोग थे उनके कमिटमेंट, उनके हार्डवर्क, उनके सेक्रीफाइस सबको मैं अप्रिशिएट करूँगा, क्योंकि बिना एज ए टीम हम लोग कुछ नहीं हैं और एज ए टीम हमने जो अचीव किया कंटिन्यूसली दूसरा बार मेडल लेके, वो भी एक सर काबिल तारीफ़ है। और मैं एक चीज़ और बोलना चाहूँगा कि मैं ऑनरेबल पीएम सर, स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री और टॉप्स, उसके बाद में साई बेंगलुरु का भी धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि हम जहाँ पे बेस पे प्रैक्टिस करते हैं हमें हर वो चीज़ें मुहैया कराई जाती हैं, वो फैसिलिटीज़ दी जाती हैं जो टॉप लेवल एथलीट को ज़रूरत होती है।
वैसे तो आपने बहुत बड़ा काम किया है, मतलब 1980 के बाद ये अब हम लगातार बैक टू बैक जीत रहे हैं, लेकिन आपको लगता है अमित रोहित दास को रेड कार्ड नहीं मिलता तो हमारा
जी बिल्कुल मलाल तो इस बात पर रहेगा। बाकी अब जो कमेटी डिसाइड की, जो इन्होंने ये किया, अब वो लोग जाने, लेकिन ये होता है कि घायल शेर और ज़्यादा खतरनाक होता है। और हमें खुशी इस बात की है कि 10 प्लेयरों से भी जीत के एक अलग हिस्ट्री क्रिएट की। और रही बात मैं अमित रोहिदास की बात करूँ तो इज़ अ ग्रेट डिफेंडर। हम लोग उसको नामी टर्मिनेटर रखते हैं कि वो फर्स्ट रसर जैसा है, वर्ल्ड क्लास फर्स्ट रसर है, उसके ऐसा कोई है भी नहीं। और वी आर लकी टू हैव हिम इन आवर टीम।
So, well, a medal in hockey is always special for India. But moving now to the big focus right now at the Olympics, and that's India's golden boy eyeing to defend his title. Remember, Neeraj Chopra, who's now in the finals and in the race for gold, dominated in the qualifiers. In fact, he fired an 89.34 meter in the qualifying round, which of course was in a sense incredible. And Neeraj Chopra, of course, has been India's golden boy through and through. My colleague Rika Roy is live with us now from Paris. Rika, what should we expect as Neeraj Chopra is now yet again in the race for gold?
Well, you can definitely expect another medal from Neeraj Chopra after the qualification mark that he crossed, 89.34. That was a mammoth throw, though that was short of his personal best. Tonight, Neeraj Chopra will try to cross that magic figure of 90. That has eluded him for a very long time. Behind me is Stade de France, and you can see droves and droves of people heading towards Stade de France now for the evening session of athletics. I'm outside the stadium. You can hear the roar. The Indian contingent is inside. There are so many people wanting to watch Chopra tonight. The magic of Neeraj Chopra, and wanting to see the golden boy is able to create an encore after his Tokyo gold. Everyone from the Indian contingent and the Indian media is hoping that India is able to almost finish off its campaign here at the Paris Games with gold from Neeraj Chopra. Though a few more medals are expected over the next couple of days, but Neeraj Chopra's medal tonight will be very, very special.
Absolutely, Rika. All eyes on that. And as you say, Neeraj Chopra is eyeing to breach that 90-meter mark as well. But stay on with us in the other big story. Well, remember, Vinesh Fogart has appealed in the International Arbitration Court for Sports, asking for her silver. There's still confusion over who will represent her. But the latest that we're getting, Rika, is that her hearing has now been deferred. What are you hearing as far as the appeal is concerned? Who is likely to represent her?
The appeal couldn't be made today. The court has accepted the plea. The hearing couldn't be held today because there's confusion over who's going to represent Vinesh Fogart. I'm hearing that there are efforts being made to get in Harish Salve to represent Vinesh Fogart here. Because a medal is at stake for India. She had reached till the gold medal match, but was disqualified by the UWW rules, which said that you cannot attend your bout or be a part of your bout if you weigh even an ounce extra more than your weight category. Vinesh was fighting in 50-kilogram category. On the morning of the bout, she weighed 50.1, which is why she was disqualified. And for that 100 grams disqualification, she is now gone to the Court of Arbitration of Sports. She is waiting to be heard there. She's appealed for a joint silver from the event.
All right, Rika, thanks very much for joining us with the latest. Of course, this has been the big heartbreak. The entire nation keenly watching this story and hoping that the International Arbitration Court actually intervenes. But moving now to the other big political headline, well, the Waqf debate in Parliament, and it was a full-blown standoff between the government and the opposition. The opposition, including the Congress and other top opposition parties like the DMK, cornered the government over the Waqf Amendment Bill, saying that this is anti-Muslim. In fact, the NDA's allies, including Chirag Paswan's LJP and the TDP, sought a review, and now the government has sent the contentious bill to a joint House panel, a parliamentary standing committee, which has been extremely rare in the past 10 years of the Modi government. Listen to former Minority Affairs Minister Smriti Irani.
Ma'am, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. You would have heard the debate playing out in Parliament that this is a violation of multiple articles of the Constitution, and this is also a violation of what is being seen as a federal structure. As someone who has been involved in the draft of this bill, what are your thoughts?
I think that if I begin with Article 26, that is with regards to management of religious affairs of a particular religion. If you look at the proposed bill, this bill speaks to the management of the affairs of the board and not of the religion as such. I think what also needs to be clarified here, that when I heard somebody speak about the rights of the state being usurped, the board is to be fundamentally constituted by the state government. That is the proposal of the government of India. There is also conversations around Article 25, which speaks about the freedom to practice or preach one's religion. Nowhere in the entire bill that has been proposed by the government of India is there any aspect of the bill that speaks to prohibition of practices of Islam, the religion itself, or preaching of Islam. I also believe that when members of the opposition spoke about Article 14, which is with respect to equality under law, one has to ascertain what is the equality one speaks about that is proposed in this very bill. If you're a Hindu, if you're a Parsi, if you're a Sikh or a Christian, who certifies whether your property is truly yours, that certification or that accreditation is done by the revenue officer. Why should somebody in the Muslim community be bereft of that right? So today the proposal of the government under the bill now allows for the waqf which is created, whether it is truly the property of the individual creating the waqf, that can only be ascertained by the revenue officer, and that is exactly what the proposed bill talks about. There has been members of the opposition's attempt to confuse between the survey commissioner and the role of the revenue officer. Now the survey commissioner can keep surveying lands at will or at the direction of either the board or the government. But ultimately, which is the authority which can conclude whether you genuinely own that property or not? That function is only done by the revenue officer. I also believe that the bill proposes that the earnings of the waqf now can be utilized for women in the Muslim community or either widowed or divorced. Why should the opposition oppose this? The proposed bill also talks about the legal framework that should be available to Muslim women to protect their inheritance rights if they feel that they have been absolved of it by the board or by a muttawali. Muttawali, Maria, for a larger understanding of the term, can be loosely spoken of from the context of somebody managing that property. The proposal of the government is that if an individual has usurped the lands of either a board or somebody in the Muslim community as cannot be appointed as Muttawali, I think that should be welcomed.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is set to visit Maldives, and this comes amid a somewhat diplomatic tightrope that India has had to walk as far as diplomatic relations with the Maldives are concerned. In fact, Mohammad Muizzu was here for Prime Minister Modi's swearing-in ceremony as well just a couple of months back. My colleague Disha Bagchi, who tracks foreign affairs for us, is joining us live on the phone line. So Disha, India has in a sense been successful in walking that diplomatic tightrope because there has been a period of strained ties, but that seems to be a thing of the past now.
So yes, Vedant, this visit actually is crucial now, and this is the first Indian high-level visit from India to Maldives under the Muizzu presidency. So quite a crucial meeting, and it's indicating that, both countries are sort of moving past that period of strained ties and a sort of a tiff between the two countries, and now working towards strengthening bilateral relations. So Jaishankar Foreign Minister Jaishankar is obviously going to be meeting his counterpart as well as the Maldivian President Muizzu, and this also indicates that the Modi 3.0 is really going to be focusing on India's neighborhood first policy and its Vision Sagar, which is crucial in kind of maintaining and strengthening ties within its neighborhood. But interestingly, as you also mentioned, India is still walking the tightrope when it comes to maintaining ties with Maldives, because recently in the most recent budget, India did cut foreign aid to Maldives by 48%. So we are seeing that in a sense there's still some sort of balancing, and they're still trying to return to the period of ties that it had with Maldives earlier. So yes, quite an interesting and quite an important visit.
Right.
It's a almost 3-day visit from the 9th of August tomorrow till the 11th of August. So quite an important visit
Right,
by the
Disha,
foreign
thanks very
minister.
much for joining us with the latest there. As Disha is pointing out, an important diplomatic visit there with S. Jaishankar set to visit the Maldives. With that, we'll take a short break now, but news continues on the other side. Welcome back. It's the Congress versus the government over the economy yet again, as the Parliament has now approved the finance bill. Well, the Congress has questioned the government on the falling manufacturing contribution to the GDP and also larger issues like unemployment, also saying that the wages have remained stagnant. In fact, the Congress party has also asked the government as to why manufacturing is not picking up and why is the situation of the taxation regime also still the same. The finance minister had countered this in Parliament as well. Let's listen in.
But if we look at the effective capital expenditure, that is, when our capital expenditure and also the money given to the state as grant and aid for creating capital assets, in our accounts it doesn't get counted as capital, whereas in the states it gets counted as capital. So if I were to look at both the capital assets, therefore, effective capital expenditure can be pegged at 15.02 lakh crores or 18% over 23-24. So we are continuously, since after COVID, emphasizing and spending higher and higher amounts in capital expenditure, partly answers the questions which was raised by Jairam Ramesh later. I have 4 issues, you answer on them. One of this, he probably implicitly agreed that this is one engine which is anyway happening. But that engine is happening in full throttle. And as a result of which, it has a bearing on the private investment, on consumption, and in a way also helps in pumping exports.
And moving now to the other big headline from Tamil Nadu. Well, former minister of the DMK government, Senthil Balaji, has now been framed. In fact, charges of the draconian, as many opposition leaders call it, PMLA, have now been invoked against Senthil Balaji. These visuals that you see on your screen are from the dramatic arrest of Senthil Balaji last year. Remember, this had sparked a huge political controversy in the state of Tamil Nadu. In fact, importantly, Senthil Balaji has pleaded not guilty. In fact, he has demanded a cross-examination. But remember, the courts successively have rejected bail to Senthil Balaji. In fact, this was, these are visuals from when Senthil Balaji was being taken for a medical examination when he fainted. And it was a huge political controversy and it led to a political standoff between the BJP and the DMK as well. Now, what is this case all about? This is the alleged cash for jobs scam, in which now the Enforcement Directorate is probing money laundering allegations, and now charges of the PMLA have also been invoked. Remember, various leaders from Delhi to Chennai have been charged with the PMLA, and it's an extremely, these are charges where bail is extremely difficult. But I'm being told my colleague Sam Daniel is now joining us live on the phone line. So Sam sir, very important there that he has now been framed, though he has pleaded not guilty.
That's right, Vedant. 14 months after his arrest, the Enforcement Directorate has filed a charge sheet, and now the court has framed charges against the arrested former Minister of Tamil Nadu, V. Senthil Balaji. This pertains to an alleged job scam in which they allege he had received huge sums of money when he was the Transport Minister under the earlier AIADMK regime under Ms. Jayalalitha. And he has denied his allegations today, and he even wanted to cross-examine witnesses. But the court has adjourned that to the 16th of August for cross-examination of witnesses. And he has been denied bail multiple times, and he continues to be behind bars. Although, till February, he continued to be a minister without a portfolio because of harsh observations by the Madras High Court. He resigned later. The DMK, the ruling DMK, alleges that this is yet another example of the BJP at the center, misusing, as they call it, central agencies, including the ED against political opponents, particularly in states ruled by the opposition. The BJP denies this allegation, saying the ED goes by the rule book. And interestingly, yesterday, the Supreme Court had also made some observations advising the Enforcement Directorate to focus on the quality of its prosecution, saying that only 40 of the 5,000 cases that filed had resulted in conviction. Vedant.
All right, Sam, thanks very much for joining us with the latest there. So, Senthil Balaji, more trouble for him as he has now been framed under the PMLA. And that's all the time we have on the show. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.